This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk's College Football Huddle. How are you all tonight? Another exciting weekend of college football has passed. We'll talk about some of the games that went on and some of the games that are to come up. Scott Frost doesn't survive the weekend. Texas almost upsets Alabama and wrecks their season. More to come on that. I think we should watch out for Alabama. I don't know. Or Texas. I'm not sure which. They obviously lost their quarterback, though, for some time. So lots of stuff to talk about today, and we'll look at this week's big games. So the biggest game, I think, this weekend is Miami at Texas A&M, to be honest with you. We'll talk about that at some length. Our guest will have Jim Biringer in from the Mad Radio Network in a little bit. We'll talk about some of his picks. He and I were both all over Appalachian State beating Texas A&M last week. Also, Texas Tech to beat Houston. ACC, or the AAC, one of the big losers last week in my mind. Sun Belt, one of the big winners, obviously. So good for them. Listen, we welcome everybody who's watching tonight on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You'll see this tomorrow. Plausibly live, recorded live, I guess is the right term. We'll be on Thursday and Friday at 11:30 a.m. on Roku. You can see the replays. Plus, we'll have replays here on TGI Sports Talk and on Twitter throughout the weekend as well, or the weekend till Saturday morning. So Jim Biringer will join us in a little bit. What I want to do real quick, I see we got a couple comments, so let me get them, and I got to do our group shout out. Alan is in this morning, or early tonight. Texas scored about at least 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, tough break for him. Played pretty well first half. We'll see how that derails Texas and their efforts going forward. Before we jump into anything tonight, I just want to give our group shout out here to, if I can find my notes. Tonight, I want to give a shout out to Let's Talk Sports with Dan Harris. Dan Harris is a great story, guys. Dan Harris reached out to me shortly after I started my show up here, during when the pandemic was in its early stages. He's done a tremendous job on his Facebook page alone for Let's Talk Sports. He's got nearly 5,000 followers now. Great job by Dan. Also got a lot of subscribers on YouTube. He's now got a Roku channel. Dan and I do a show on Tuesdays, Let's Talk New York Sports, which you can see on Facebook and YouTube and Roku, as we just said. There's other content of mine that Dan is sharing as well, so we appreciate that. Dan's a good story. Dan is a guy who, I don't want to embarrass him, obviously, but he has some physical challenges, and it's something that he took on to I think that to help pass the time and whatnot. And this is a guy with some great knowledge of our sports here in the States. He's from the UK, if I forgot to mention that. He's in the UK. And the knowledge of the sports he has here in the States is remarkable. And all the sports. He can talk hockey. He can talk NBA. He can talk college football. He can talk NFL football. Yeah, I mean, he knows alignment on like every team in the NFL. So Dan is a great job, and I appreciate it. Dan and I have had this relationship, this friendship now, partnership, kind of doing some shows and collaborating together for for over 2 years now. And, I consider him a good friend, and I congratulate him on the success that he's had. So tremendous job. And he's, again, a hardworking guy, man. He's got shows on at all hours of the day. And Alan says Dan is an awesome guy. I know that Alan's been doing some content for the Let's Talk Sports network as well. So, and Alan's doing some good stuff. Go back and look in the archives at our NFL preview show, which I guess I'll have to replay maybe about mid-season and see how we did. Oh, God. Dan's got like 20 shows tonight. This guy is the hardest working man in podcasting, I can tell you. If he got paid by the podcast, he'd be making a fortune. But good guy. We like Dan a lot, and we're glad that he was able to join us. And we'll have, as I said, Jim Biringer will be on with us here in a little bit as well. Good evening, Carlos. Good to have you with us, by the way. You're out to see the Cubs and Mets play tonight. That's at tonight? You better get going, no? I don't know how far you got to the stadium. You probably don't have that far. Let's see what else Alan's got going on here tonight. Got a couple comments. Same thing happened to Colt McCoy. You know what? Texas might very well won that title game in 2010 if Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt. Just an FYI. We talked about that. I thought I saw something else that I might have missed, but you're late. Yeah, get there. Don't be like LA fans. It's not fashionable to arrive late and leave early, Carlos. What do we got here? We may have to do a show in week 8 or 9, and change all our picks probably. So that's a different topic, the NFL. We'll get into that as we go forward. Listen, no surprise, by the way. I want to start with, I probably don't even have a banner for him because, sorry, Scott Frost. I'm really sorry, Scott. There it is. Scott runs out of time. Scott Frost, I talked last week about how, he was hanging by a thread. And the only question was, I thought he'd been fired. He was fired already. To me, it was just going to be a matter of would he last the season or would they fire him at the end of the season? Well, they decided after last week's horrendous loss to, of all people, oh my gosh, who was it? Let me find the. You can't make this stuff up. I realize why I couldn't find their score. By the way, I'm looking for them in the Big 12 last week, for crying out loud. Oh my God, awful, right? Anyway, Nebraska loses last week to, of all teams, Georgia Southern, 45-42. And Nebraska, they needed Scott Frost gone so bad. They cost themselves $7.5 million by not waiting another 3 weeks to fire him. After week 5, his $10 million or $15 million buyout would have dropped to $7.5 million. And Nebraska and Trev Albert weren't even willing to wait that long. So, listen, Scott Frost came there with lots of high hopes. He won a national championship at Nebraska. He'd gone to UCF and he had really put together a really great program, and he was the hottest name in the country. He took a UCF team from being winless and 2 years later being undefeated, winning the Peach Bowl, I think, and laying claim to their own national championship. So Scott Frost burns out quickly. Let me get to a couple quick comments. We'll bring Jim Biringer in here in a second. So 15 minutes walking. No, you can't be, I don't know. Frost is not so frosty. He is very frosty because, listen, Scott Frost will probably get another job. It's not going to be at a Power 5 school, though, most likely. Hello, Augustine. How are you? One last one from, well, I don't know if it's Georgia Southern's better than Georgia Tech, but I get your point. And it is a problem either way, for sure. So anyway, without further ado, as we're talking about Scott Frost, actually, let me find his banner here before I bring him in the room if I can find it. Can't find anything anymore, guys. You know, it's funny. At this time of night, I can't seem to see a damn thing, for crying out loud. Good evening, Jim Biringer from the Mad Radio Network. We have to lead the hockey stuff out, I guess. So he is from fullpresshockey.com as well. Since I find it hard not to say it, even though we're a college football show. Welcome, Jim Biringer. How are you?
What's going on? How are we doing tonight?
We're doing better than Scott Frost is doing. I can tell you that. I mean, we talked last week, I think, Jim. I know I talked to myself, which I do a lot of. But, you know, he was a dead man walking and fired. It was just a matter of whether he'd last the season. I thought he'd make it till week 5 when they would save $7.5 million. But Trev Albert said, nope, let's get him out of here now. Not shocking. What are your thoughts there?
No, not shocking. I mean, it was funny because I wasn't sure if he'd make it to the Rutgers game. Obviously, he did it. But a nice buyout, $90 million. I'll take that, not to do anything. So,
yeah. I think the only thing that shocks me here is that they didn't wait another 3 weeks and say, let's save $7.5 million. I'm sure somebody's going to ask Trev Albert, you know, we aren't going anywhere anyway. Why couldn't we wait 3 weeks? But
yeah, it's true. I mean, they're not going anywhere. I mean, look, the thing is like with Nebraska now, I mean, like who are you looking at? Like, where are you going to go? What type of coach? It's an intriguing game this week with Oklahoma coming to town. You know, let's see how they respond. New coach, new attitude. Let's see what they produce, product on the field. I mean, I still think Oklahoma's going to win that game, but let's see, you know, what kind of Nebraska team shows up this week. No Scott Frost. The problem is, here's the thing, like, you know, Scott Frost, he's in a big time Power 5 conference. Every game is on television. It's not like you can't find these games. And when then people see you week 0 and you're the only game on television and they see your shortcomings, things start to snowball.
Yeah.
And that is a big problem for Scott Frost.
Yeah, this Nebraska's, and listen, this is a school that fired Bo Pelini for going 9-4 every year. I bet you they would love to have him back, for crying out loud.
Well, you know, I heard this one down in Texas A&M. How many people were chomping at the bit to get rid of Kevin Sumlin, and he's got about the same record as Jimbo Fisher.
Jimbo's going to be moving up the hot seat chart. Let me tell you, there's a guy every year. We'll get into this week's game. Obviously, they got a big game against Miami. We talked about it, and we were both on that upset alert with them, and then Texas Tech last week. A great job out of you, and I'll even pat myself on the back a little bit there. But good job. The big loser, and I got a couple comments I want to get here before we go too far. But you know, Scott Frost, a big loser for the week. Jimbo Fisher, a big loser for the week. The Sun Belt, a big winner for the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Appalachian State and Marshall both winning against Power 5 schools, top 10 ranked schools. And also they got Coastal Carolina 2-0. So that's a league on the upturn. And before I miss it here, Alan puts up the Sun Belt teams are screaming for an expanded playoff to start this year.
I don't even know if they get into the expanded playoff. Sorry.
No, it's funny too, because one of the losers, I would say, while we're talking about winners and losers, the AAC comes out a loser with Houston going down so early. Nobody, I don't think, is going to step up to fill that void that Cincinnati team from last year left. But the group of five's in a little bit of disarray. I don't know who's the best group of 5 team right now. It might be Appalachian State.
Could be Appalachian State. I mean, that team should be 2-0. You know, they should have beat North Carolina. I still think North Carolina is a big loser this week too, even though they won. They still can't play defense under Mac Brown, and I think Mac Brown, you know, has got to be wiping his brow every week with these close wins.
Yeah, they get into league play. It's going to get a little ugly possibly for Mac Brown. I got a feeling this year. They had high hopes bringing Gene Chizik in there to run the defense, and to me, it looks no different.
No, it doesn't.
It looked before. So I got interested. There's another comment before we move on from Nebraska too far. Not this wasn't the one, but that is kind of funny. That isn't what I was looking for, actually. Carlos asked, who's got it worse, Washington or Nebraska? Let me tell you something. University of Washington, I don't know if Mickey Delaney's with us tonight. He's a big Washington and Washington State fan. But Washington's, I know they haven't played great teams, but they won like, I don't know, 78-14 their first 2 games. I think they got a decent game coming up this weekend too.
They got Michigan State coming in.
Yeah, that's it. Michigan State. I think they got a chance to beat Michigan State this weekend. I think Washington's on a bit of an upturn under their new coach.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised at all if Washington wins. Tough place to play. Just ask those Pac-12 teams that were going undefeated. They got to go up to Washington late in the season, and they lose some close games because that crowd, home field advantage for Washington, the Huskies, they have a good team up there. I would not be surprised to see Michigan State fall.
I wouldn't either. I've got that on my my upset alert for sure. That's my. I gotta believe Michigan State's favored in that game. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think actually no. Early line had this was Monday again. Real early line had Washington favored by like 3, but that's the home field.
Interesting.
It's home field 3. So I mean,
I like them. I like them a lot this week. Let me get to a couple. We got comments coming right and left. So BYU, by the way, with a nice victory over Baylor last week, which I know I was on. I think we were on.
Yeah, we were both on. We were both on BYU. Yeah, BYU train.
It's possible BYU could make a move here. I mean, they had a big jump up the rankings 9 spots this week. It could be BYU's got a really good team, man, and as long as they play Pac-10 teams, they're playing a Pac-10 team this week. Without the schedule in front of me, I don't remember, but they win all their games against the Pac-10. The Pac-12. They would have won the Pac-12 last year if they're actually playing in the league, for crying out loud, because they beat everybody, including Utah.
Yeah, they did beat Utah. That was a big game that they beat Utah with, and Utah went on to win the Pac-12. I think, for me, I think right now, I don't know if there's going to be too many independents coming out this year. I think it's going to be status quo with the Power 5 occupying the top 4. I mean, obviously Notre Dame 0-2 now. So I mean, they got.
Oh, we lost Jim Biringer. I don't know where he went. Hopefully I didn't kick him out. Pop back in here, Jim. Anyway, we'll get back to Jim. We're talking about independents, and I had them on my losers this week as well, because unfortunately Army went down this week to a real good Texas San Antonio team. So no embarrassment there for there's Jim's back. Hey, Jim.
I don't know what happened. The disconnections around here. Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna see any independent. I don't know if we're gonna have a similar thing that we had last year with Cincinnati crashed the party. We're talking about Coastal. I think it's going to be Power 5 this year all the way.
Yeah.
You're going to have, obviously the SEC may have 2 teams, or you can have all the champions this year, because I think it's going to be Power 5 heavy this year.
Yeah, BYU would be the only team in the independents that would have a shot. Obviously, Liberty, Liberty's not going to play a good enough schedule, even if they run the table to get close. And Notre Dame with 2 losses puts themselves right out. Augustin brings up a good point. BYU going to play Oregon this week on the road. So listen, Oregon got blown out. We know by Georgia, but it's still a tough place to go play. And BYU is playing a decent schedule here for an independent. I think they got something to prove before they go into this Big 12. They could make themselves relevant here late in the year. But again, run the table or forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to run the table. That's an early game too on the East Coast. That's a 3:30 start on Fox, BYU, Oregon, and it's ranked on ranks through AP. So I mean, that's a big game. If BYU can beat a 25 ranked Oregon team, that's gonna give them good standing heading into when we get closer and closer to when the quote unquote official college football rankings come out.
Agreed. What were your big takeaways from last week? Let me give you a couple of mine. I already talked about a couple of things. Big winners, Sun Belt. ACC, I think, comes out a winner last week as well. Overall, league-wise, I think the SEC, even despite Alabama almost getting beat and A&M going down, I think they're a winner, because you saw a good game at Kentucky and Florida, and Kentucky is a team to watch out for. I've said it before. If Georgia stumbles, Rick Sherlock, if the dogs aren't as good as we think they are, or they look like they are, Kentucky could sneak in there. They're sneaky good. So that's another team that I like. And And who else jumped way up here? Tennessee with a big jump up the rankings last week, too. So what are your takeaways as far as winners and losers, whether it's teams or conferences from last week?
I mean, even despite the loss, I think Texas, to me, you put them in the win column, even despite the loss. I think they played well. I think they've proven that they're taking a step in the right direction. They're not talking about being back anymore. They're putting the work in. They're talking about the chase, the hunt, similar to what Alabama does every week. It's not we're back. We're not pounding the chest and everything. I think, circumstances what they were. I think Texas should have won that game against Alabama, though we both thought Alabama was going to blow the doors off. But, when Alabama has these close games, I think Nick Saban likes it because, his players can't, quote unquote, get the rat poison, as he likes to say.
Yeah. It's actually Sarkisian used that himself about the rat poison in a comment the other day too.
I think Arkansas and the SEC stay in there. Arkansas's got a really good team this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they're sneaky good. You want to talk on the other side? Everybody talks about Kentucky sneaky good. I think Arkansas sneaky good team.
Yeah, you know what? Their head coach gets an extension this year after turning that program around the last couple of years, and I love their quarterback, who's again his name is escaping me. Everything's escaping me tonight. But they are sneaky good. And I don't know who they play this week. They've got who do they have this week? There's some good games on the. Not really. There's only a couple of ranked against ranked.
They got Missouri State. I mean,
Missouri State, right?
That they should be 3-0 after this week. But because the thing is with Texas A&M losing, right? They have big games. They got Miami this week. Then you get into the heart of the SEC schedule. You got Arkansas, Alabama. They could be 1-5. Exactly. I mean, that's a difficult schedule, especially, and then you go down in conference. Man, Jimbo's on the hot seat right now, and there's a lot of. I'm
not so sure about that one, Alan.
Where's that game this year? Is that in Arkansas or is it in Alabama?
Let's take a quick look. It is at home.
It's in Arkansas.
It is at home in Arkansas. Yeah.
I give them a chance to win at home. They play better at home against Alabama than they do on the road.
It's going to be very interesting. They could come in there 4-0 if they beat Missouri. They'll beat Missouri State, and if they beat A&M next week, they can go into that game 4-0. Very, very interesting matchup for sure. Yeah, look at the SEC. We talk about it, and I get on our SEC elitists sometimes, but
mentioning Alabama, I heard a good comment. I heard a good comment made by Paul Feinbaum. It may not be this year, though we're starting to see it.
Thank you, Rick.
We may not see it this year, but with other schools starting to come into the SEC and the schools getting better, I know Saban can recruit, but this year you notice the talent level isn't where it was in years past in terms of what Georgia brought to the table, what other teams are bringing to the table. They really don't have a deep threat now that they've lost all their wide receivers. So check out the talent on Alabama and compare it to other teams. I know they're still Alabama. I know it's Nick Saban, but that's going to play a factor down the road if Alabama can sustain being a top team.
Rick, it's funny because you asked about, and I didn't know if I said good evening, Rick, but I don't know. Are the Dogs number one?
Georgia's number one. They passed Alabama.
I pulled the rankings up, and I was looking at some of the movers up and down, and I didn't really look at the rankings themselves. And they should be over Alabama for sure. I mean,
they're number one. They won the national title. If you're the national champion, you start off strong. You should be number one. Yeah,
and if you're Alabama and you just get by an unranked team, then obviously you're going to pay the price. I mean, and there was a question here too, and I think it was from Alan. I can't find it. Do we think? Did Texas play really well last year, or last week, or did Alabama play badly? I think it's a combination of the two myself.
I think it's a combination of the two as well. But you know what? The fact of the matter is, like I just mentioned before about the talent level, our offensive line wasn't really protecting Bryce Young. And the weapons down the field, they really don't have like that breakout guy that can open up the field like they had in years past. Mechie and Williams ain't going to be walking through the door right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Losing the quarterback, Ewers, is going to hurt them, though, Texas here. They could have got some momentum going from this game, and I think this will hurt them obviously I think he's out 4 to 6 weeks. So that could really put a damper on their Big 12 aspirations.
Yeah, for sure. I think so too. I think so.
Carlos, Carlos, I thought you had to go to the Met game.
Is he? I wonder if he's at the Met game and he's doing this.
He could be. He said he was late, but I don't know if it could be he's on his way. That's a good point. KJ Jefferson is the Arkansas quarterback. Thank you, Rick. The 11 o'clock game, I'm not sure which. I lost track of where that kind of may be going. The Bulldogs look great, and blah blah blah. More dogs. Sorry about that. I don't mean blah blah blah. Rick.
Everybody loves the dogs.
Texas could have been a contender. I think they're in trouble now, though. So,
well, did you see the news coming out of the SEC today in regards to rescheduled games in regards to COVID? I think it was Tennessee, Oklahoma had like a home and home, and it got canceled.
Yeah,
and they said the SEC, the commissioner, told the teams to hold off on rescheduling the game.
I think it's got to be because they're coming into the league next year, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, there's no bigger signal to me than that.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to come in earlier than expected.
Oh, there's our number one Jim Biringer fan.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's a toss-up between Amanda and Rick Sherlock. I'm not sure which one's a bigger fan.
I know who the bigger fan is. I know who the bigger fan is. Okay? And it's Amanda. Amanda's the number one fan. The biggest fan.
She has high hopes for – listen, we all got high hopes for the U this year, baby.
Always got high hopes for the U.
I'm telling you right now, they go into the Clemson game undefeated. They beat Clemson. They get them again in the ACC championship game. Miami on the cusp of a playoff this year. Watch out.
Ooh, hot take. Scorcher. You know what? I got them going into Texas A&M this week and winning.
You know, the difference between them, we talked about Miami had to be on, that look ahead alert, right? And they didn't. They took care of business on the field last week. A little bit of a slow start against Southern Miss, but they ended up winning the game very, very easily. Van Dyke's playing well. There's another hot take. He'll be a Heisman finalist and a first-round draft pick next year. There you go.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I talked about that on this show last year. I like the fact that they brought Van Dyke into this offense. He's a better fit. He looks good, and you know what? This team is rolling with him. Let's see what Sark can do against. Mario Cristobal can do against a Texas A&M team.
Let's concentrate on this game for a second. I mean, again, I talk about this every week. Jimbo Fisher, year after year, he's got one of the best recruiting classes or the best recruiting class in the country, but he does everything except make use of it. Can't find a quarterback. Continues to have quarterback problems. King isn't the answer. It's very obvious. I can't wait to see what he pulls this week. He just makes bonehead play after bonehead play, and Jimbo's got nowheres to go. You need to start turning those into SEC championship game appearances, those recruiting classes, Jimbo, or you're not going to be at Texas A&M. I don't care if you got a 10-year contract or not.
Yeah, I mean, look, was it a fluke the year that Florida State did what they did in the ACC with Jimbo? I mean, they brought big dollars in for this guy, but I don't know. I mean, Kevin Sumlin did pretty much the same job at Texas A&M that Jimbo Fisher's doing right now.
It's pretty funny. When he signed his 10-year, $75 million contract, I think he was the highest paid coach or the second highest paid coach maybe in the SEC. Now he's underpaid.
Well, I think the highest paid coach is at Georgia now, right?
I think
it's either him or Saban.
I think Saban just got an adjustment to his contract that put him just a little bit ahead of Kirby.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sure that's probably part of his contract as it is. I got to be highest paid coach in the SEC, and he should be, by the way, because he's the greatest college football coach of all time.
Yeah, that was it. That was the game. They were supposed to play Georgia.
Yeah.
They said no mas to that.
Yeah, so that'll be again. I think that's a very Alan brought that to my attention earlier in the day. I think it's a very good indicator that you'll see Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC next year.
Well, here's the thing. Did you see the rankings? Texas jumped into the rankings despite the loss.
Yes, they moved. Where are they? 19
or 21? I got them at 21. Yeah.
Let me put this back up here. I had these up, and I don't know how I closed them. I get looking at so much stuff. I open and close stuff. Yeah, well, I usually go by, you're right, 21. I try to stick with the AP poll myself. And again, listen, there were some big losers last week too. Texas A&M lost 18 spots in the rankings.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, I think, lost like 29.
They're out. They're out of the rankings.
They're not even like one of the first 10 in.
No.
They get 23 votes total. Not a good start for Notre Dame. But you know what? Everybody's and people make comments. Let's talk about this for a second before we move on to a couple of picks for this week. Everybody talks about Marcus Freeman. Hey, you happy now, Notre Dame fans? You got to relax. It's 2 games. They don't have a quarterback. They got a quarterback who's, he's inexperienced. I think they'll be fine. I think Marcus Freeman will be fine, and Notre Dame fans got to relax. I mean, I just don't think this was going to be a national championship contender anyway.
No, I mean, I think they would probably would. I thought maybe 1 or 2 losses, a couple losses this year under Marcus Freeman. Obviously the first, but you got to beat Marshall. Obviously, everybody got to relax, take it chill a little bit.
Yeah, and, relax.
Just relax. Aaron said it best. He said relax. Up in Green Bay those years, he said just relax, baby.
Don't bring Aaron Rodgers into this conversation.
Well, he has the quote. I mean, he said just relax. So.
By the way, Alan, I don't know what you got of Vance Van Dyke that you want him to have a star in his helmet when he gets to the NFL. You shouldn't wish that on anybody. Cristobal is like $10 short of a championship. Carlos, you come up with these. You're like the Riddler. I don't know what the heck you're talking about half the time. He's moving on to Mark Mancini. Okay, I didn't say get a chance to say good evening to Low Gamer. So good evening. Do I agree? Do we agree? We'll say that Oregon being ranked in both polls this week. We said somebody was going to move in. With all the teams that fell out.
It makes sense that Oregon moved in. It makes sense.
I really don't have a problem with that. I mean, if I had a problem and I was going to move somebody in ahead of them, maybe App State, who's just out on the outside. Marshall's just on the outside.
I think if App State wins again this week, I think they're getting in next week if somebody falters.
Yeah. Well, A&M's going to falter this week.
Yeah. So I mean, exactly. So App State's in because they beat A&M. So there you go.
Well, Alan's all over jumping a bandwagon on the U. Do I think they're a top 25 team? I do not think Oregon is a top 25 team.
Neither do I. So,
no, I don't. Game already. Carlos gets to the game, and he's already pissed off. You're amazing, Carlos. I'm surprised he hasn't called for Buck Showalter to be fired yet. So.
No, he's still on the Barry Trotz
He hasn't even got to his seat yet. That's awesome. We're getting play-by-play as he walks down.
Wait, Keith, I got one for you. He's still on the Barry Trotz fire train.
Barry doesn't have a job, and he wants Barry to be fired from the head of his household or whatever.
Exactly.
Oh, Jim, what are we looking forward to this week? I mean, again, not as many. I think we got one. I think Miami and A&M might be the only 2 ranked teams playing each other.
BYU is a ranked game.
A BYU at Oregon, yeah.
Yeah, BYU, Oregon. Yep. A lot of cupcake games. I mean, Liberty, Wake Forest should be a fun game.
I like that game a lot. Yep, that's on my list. Fresno State, USC. I think maybe.
Let's see if the USC offense is the real deal. I mean, look, they fixed their offense in the transfer portal. I think they got to have some defensive issues that they still need to fix. But I mean, if they're gonna score touchdowns in the first 5 drives every game, I think your chances of winning are really, really good. If they stay undefeated going in against Utah, that's going to be a fun game down the stretch.
I agree. Another game I like this week, especially with yours out, Texas San Antonio plays Texas this week.
That'd be a fun game to watch.
It might be a little hard for Texas to get up for this game after the Alabama close upset. This is a good spot. Texas San Antonio is a good team. They should have beat Houston 2 weeks ago. They beat a very good Army team on the road at West Point, where it's a tough place to win.
Yeah, that was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I did.
They won in overtime, right? They won in overtime.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it. I wish I could have, but I didn't get a chance. And another game I like is your Texas Tech team. I know you tout them pretty highly. They play NC State, another good team this week. That's a good matchup.
That's going to be a good matchup, I think. Yeah. That's a great matchup. Texas Tech going to NC State. Definitely difficult to go in there and win. Coming off emotional win against a Houston team. But you know what? I wouldn't be shocked to do it again, right? I mean, those Raiders. I mean,
what? So let's get right to this. What's your lock of the week?
lock of the week. All right. I mean, man, lock of the week. Wow, it's tough. I mean, there's so many cupcake games. Like, could we? I mean, I'm not gonna take the. I'm not gonna take the easy. The easy. Alabama. Oh yeah, NC. I mean, you could. Can I say lock of the week, man? I'm gonna go with. You know what? I'm going to go with Georgia going into South Carolina getting a win.
That's a good one. I'm interested to see. We're going to find out how much South Carolina's improved with their Shane Rattler. He's got Spencer Rattler. I did it again. Yeah. Spencer Rattler is anything close to what he was projected to be when he first came in on the college scene. If he can pull an upset, this would be a major upset for sure. My lock will be, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you the U.
I like it.
All over Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M is my lock.
I like it. I like it. Lock of the week, baby.
And don't be surprised if, Jim. Don't be surprised if. Give me a don't be surprised if game.
Don't be surprised if game. I mean, I think we talked it off the top. I said don't be surprised if Washington beats Michigan State.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I'll stay with you with that one, but I'll pick one of my own. I like that one as well. I'm going to say Texas San Antonio goes into Austin and beats the Longhorns this week. Short their starting quarterback and a little bit of a hangover from being 1 point away from beating the top-ranked team in the country.
That's a great pick. I mean, you come off these emotional games. Can you get up for the game? Are you not looking ahead to big matchups? Like, that's Texas' problem? Can they not look ahead to big matchups? Can they avoid, looking ahead? We want to see what they can do coming off a game like that.
Yeah, let me get to a couple other comments before I let you go here. We'll see what we got. I know Carlos is, I don't think he's even made it to his seat yet. Here's Alan's pick. Don't be surprised if Texas Tech will be ranked next week.
I like it.
Because they'll pull off yet another upset over NC State. I like it. I don't mind that pick either. Good evening, Anthony Price. I haven't seen you in a bit. Good to have you with us. He's still mad the NCAA let Alabama win.
I don't know where he's going with that one.
That, Anthony, but look at, you got to beat the best team. Apparently, Rick has news that Carlos fired the pretzel vendor on his way to his seat. So
wow, he's got that pull. Wow.
He got his jam on. What top 25 do you think has the best chance to be upset?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Let's see. Let me look through here quickly.
You said Texas Tech. I mean, you said NC State's got it.
Yeah.
I think Michigan State. To me, I think you go in there cross country trip. That's a tough game. You have Texas on upset alert.
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna say definitely Texas. See if we can come up with anybody else that I would say. Well, again,
what do you think? What about Penn State? You think they can lose at Auburn?
At Auburn, that would not surprise me if that were to happen. I think Penn State better be careful. Again, not a big James Franklin fan. Auburn should have beat them last year at Penn State, and they didn't. I wouldn't be surprised to see Auburn pull that off. I don't think Liberty will have any. No, a lot of cupcakes this week, huh?
Hey, what do you think about Auburn winning against Penn State?
I think Auburn can win that game.
Yeah, so I mean,
yeah, I do.
I mean, it's a tough game.
And you called Washington over Michigan State. There's another one. So.
I mean, there's a couple out there. I mean, not many ranked. Not a lot of sexy matchups this week, but some intriguing ones for sure.
I'll give you one other one, Low Gamer. Watch out for Pittsburgh to maybe have a struggle with Western Michigan, possibly.
Maybe.
Be careful. Maybe. That's a sneaky team. Carlos is going to walk home with beer. God, what? Oh my God! I've gone to games with guys like Carlos. I get it. How long are we staying? Is Buck Coach of the Year? What?
This isn't a baseball show.
Will you get back on a college football, Carlos? The answer is yes, but that's fine. Don't be surprised if joke happened. The Golden Bears beat Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame gets right this week against Cal.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they get
Allen's
right.
got Fresno State beating USC. That listen, that'll be a test for him. I think Carlos says the same thing. So interesting, good stuff. What else? Before we let you go, what else you want to throw at us? Anything you got going on? Anything you want us to look for this weekend?
I mean, well, training camps are opening up. We got rookie camps coming in. NHL's back, but we got college football Saturday. A lot of fun games. I'm just looking forward for the matchups. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, it's going to be, college football. There's always great stories every week. We're going to be sitting here talking about some upsets next week, just like we always do. So, Jim, thanks for coming in, spending a few minutes with us tonight, and we'll see how we fare this week.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how we fare. Look, I went all the way with it last week with App State. Put some money on them to win, so got them up. I had the upset in my pools this week too. So that was a good one. Texas Tech too. So hopefully Washington gets the job done at home this week.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Take that DraftKings money.
You Sports Interaction money. You know it.
All right, Sports Interaction. We'll plug whoever we got to plug here.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Jim. Thanks for being with us. Have a good night, and tell Rick and Amanda hello for him.
All right, I'll tell Amanda hello for you. That's all right. All right. You talk to Rick. All right.
I'll do that. All right. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. The great Jim Biringer from Mad Radio Network, and also obviously FullPressHockey.com. He's our hockey guru on TGI Sports Talk, and we certainly bring him in because he knows a lot about college football too, and some great opinions. Let's see what I miss here. Anything? If I missed a couple things, I'm sorry, guys. If I missed a comment, don't hesitate to put it back up. I'll be glad to share with it. Oh boy, I don't know about that one. Who they got this week? Oh, Allen. Oh, Allen. Let me take a quick look here. Big 12. Who's Kansas got? Don't fall in love with a team just because, they beat West Virginia. They got Tulane. No, that's Kansas State. Nah, they're not beating Houston. If they beat Houston, the AAC's, their season's blowing up. They're at Houston. Houston's going to be this game's going to be a 30-point game, I think. Don't be fooled by Kansas being 2-0 and beating West Virginia. Kansas, I could sit here with egg all over my face. Kansas is still Kansas. Augustine, I'm happy Oregon is a top 25. Go Ducks. You're going to be right out of it, though, Augustine, because you're going to lose to BYU at home this week. I'm sorry to say. I hate to disappoint my fans. I do not think Liberty can beat Wake. I think this will be a high-scoring affair. I would see it maybe 40. This could be a 45-31 game. Bet the over. You're going to go for Liberty to beat Wake Forest. That's a bold pick. Let's take a quick look before we jump into the games for this week, and we'll go through a bunch of the top 25 games and talk about them all. Let's take a quick look back at the polls. I talked a little bit. So we had a big swap at the top, at least in the AP. The coaches, Rick, do not think that Georgia's the best team in the country. Alabama's still on top of the coaches poll. But we'll stick with the AP because writers know much more than coaches. So we always stick with writers. They did have a swap at the top. Georgia getting 53 first place votes to only 9 for Alabama. So it was it's funny how it can be that big a discrepancy there, but so close. Only 39-25 as far as first place votes with the coaches. But who knows? The coaches actually see these teams play, so I don't really know. If you're not playing in their conference, how do you know what they're doing? That's why I like the AP poll. Anyway, Ohio State stays at 3, Michigan stays at 4, Clemson stays at 5, Oklahoma up 1-6, USC up 3-7, Oklahoma State up 3-8, 8. Big move for my Kentucky Wildcats. They're not my Kentucky Wildcats. We know that I'm a University of Miami fan. But I'm a Mark Stoops fan. You guys have heard me talk since I started this show. And actually on TGI Sports Talk before I even started this show. Love Kentucky and what Mark Stoops has done there. He's been knocking at that door the last couple of years. I'm telling you, if Georgia stumbles, watch out for Kentucky. Should we go through their line? Should we go through their? Let me go through their schedule real quickly. Let's see where I can get them to. Here's the next few games for Kentucky. Youngstown State this week. They win. They got 2 wins already. That gives them 3. Northern Illinois, they win. Ole Miss, you're going to be very shocked to hear me say this. They're going to go to Ole Miss and beat Lane Kiffin, 5-0. South Carolina at home, 6-0. Mississippi State, 7-0. Tennessee on the road, tough game. But if they win this game, they're going to be set up to possibly win the East. They'll have a showdown with Georgia. I think they're going to get to the Georgia game undefeated. I think they're going to beat Tennessee at Tennessee. They'll beat Missouri. They'll beat Vanderbilt. I think Kentucky's got a very good shot, another hot take for you, of getting to Georgia on November 19th and being undefeated and maybe getting blown out. All right, fair enough. Those are all winnable games for Kentucky, every one of them. I'll get to your comments in a second. Let me finish some of this poll stuff. Arkansas moves up 6 spots. A lot of big moves up and down this poll this week. Arkansas to the top 10. They're 6 up. Michigan State goes up 3 to 11. BYU up 9 to 12. BYU could be a contender for this national championship playoff as well. Miami up 2 to 13. They'll be in the top 10 after this week, ladies and gentlemen. Utah, they drop after even up with a big win, 73-3, I think, over I don't know who it was, Southern Utah. Tennessee up 9 with an up and down performance against Pittsburgh. I'm not sold on Rocky Top yet. NC State up 2 to 16. Baylor with a big drop from 9 to 17, 8 spots. Florida down 6. I think it was way overranking them when they jumped so far last week. You saw some of their issues last week, I think. Wake Forest up 4 with the return of Sam Hartman was lights out last week after not having played any football. He'll get back on the Heisman Trophy radar here if he continues to play like he did. Ole Miss up 2. Texas was not ranked. I don't know where they came from. I'd have to look at last week. So I'm going to say they're up probably, 5 or 6 spots, maybe more. It got to be more than that, 7 or 8 spots. Penn State moves in. Pittsburgh drops 6 to number 23. A&M drops 18 places to 24. Oregon jumps in. I think they were the first one out maybe last week. And Notre Dame dropped about 30 spots, guys. They got 23 total votes. Who else is close to getting in? Marshall's on the cusp. Cincinnati's on the cusp. App State, be careful. They could be in this week. Kansas State, sneaky good in the Pac-12. Watch out. North Carolina, no. Mississippi State, maybe. Oregon State. Florida State with a big game at Louisville Thursday night. I like Florida State in this game. We'll talk about that in a second. Minnesota, Washington State. Nice win at Wisconsin last week for Washington State. Notre Dame, we talked about. Air Force with 19 votes. Texas Tech gets some votes this week. Wisconsin falls way back, just 7 votes. Iowa State, 4. They do get a win over Iowa. Iowa's pathetic, right? Auburn, 4. Purdue, 1. All right, what do we got here? Did I miss anything? Oh, we missed a lot of stuff. Let's get to your comments here. Fresno can beat USC, but not this weekend, Carlos says. You just picked them. You just said Fresno beats USC, but not this weekend. Put your beer away. You did this. Maybe I missed these. I guess I already did these. We did this. We talked about this. Sorry about that, Augustin. I do like BYU this week. We talked about Liberty. Where the heck? I guess I got more of these than I thought. Alan thinks Kansas is better than people think. Listen, you have to be better than people think. Kansas is a wasteland and has been since Mark Mangino. I think his name is Mangino. Took them to an Orange Bowl. I mean, good job, but this team's been nowhere. I think Augustine doesn't want his team Oregon to lose this week to BYU. Wake plays down to teams, and that's dangerous. They have had a tendency to do that. And by the way, we'll get Larry Sorensen in next week with the 3 games under Wake Forest belt. We're going to want to talk to Larry about how they do against Liberty this weekend, the return of Sam Hartman, and how things are looking with the SEC or the ACC schedule beginning. Mets losing 6-0. How come we got everything but the score from Carlos? Excuse me. You got to help me. You got to help me, Alan. Hashtag fly the W. Is that Kansas? You guys are killing me with the baseball talk tonight. Rick Sherlock just keeps getting better. I don't think he means – I think there's supposed to be a comma in there, Rick. I don't think Carlos is saying you just keep getting better, Rick. I think he means it just keeps getting better. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, my God. Can you guys – I'm a big baseball fan, but I want to stick to college football on this show. About my college football team, the U, baby. Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M go down. Big 12 for Kansas State, not the Pac-12. Did I say Pac-12? Whatever. They'd win that league too. They'd probably win. They'd probably be better in the Pac-12 than they would be in the Big 12. Can't even get a drink. Both Jim Beams are packed. Well, should have brought your own. K-State may be 5th this year. I got the Red Raiders. I think Baylor's going to disappoint a little bit. I think Oklahoma State will win this league. And Sooners may be better. I want to see the Sooners go. Sooners better go and beat this team by about 35, Nebraska Saturday. Big 12 is one of those leagues, though, that there's 6 teams that could compete there, and you could put them in pretty much any order, and it could, you might be right. We try, Augustin, we try. What did I want to get to here? So those are the those are the rankings. Is there anything I terribly disagree with in the rankings? Not really. I think they're probably about where they should be right now. Texas jumping up as far as they did after a loss is interesting, especially with their quarterback going down. I don't know that you're going to see them very, very long because, as I just said, I think we will have an upset. Before I jump into the picks for this week, let's talk a little more about I want to talk a little bit more about Scott Frost being gone. Who's going to be the candidates for that job? And I think there's a couple that stand out. And I've checked. I read a few articles this week and came up with a cross section of possible candidates. Most of this is from Bruce Feldman, to be clear. One of the candidates to watch out for would be Lance Leopold. There you go. Alan, the Kansas head coach. He's got Cornhuskers roots. He was an assistant there for a couple of years in the early 2000s. He was at Nebraska Omaha for a decade, and also got his first head coaching job at Wisconsin Whitewater, where he built a powerhouse. He won Division III titles up the yazoo. Now, that doesn't always mean much. He went 109-6, by the way. Now, I understand that doesn't mean a lot. Has he done a good job at Kansas? Yup. He inherited, obviously, a mess. It's funny. He talks about how they inherited a mess from Les Miles. Well, Les Miles inherited a mess from the old Nebraska quarterback, Turner Gill. I think Turner Gill was there before him, and then it was Charlie Weiss before him. Unless I got those two mixed up chronologically, but this team's been a mess for 2 decades, nearly 2 decades. So he's done a good job coaching them. They're 2-0, and he'll be a candidate for this Nebraska job. Chris Kleiman from Kansas State. He's done an excellent job since taking over for Bill Snyder after Bill Snyder's second tour duty at Kansas State. And, he's going to be a contender. He's had his team in contention the last few years. He's had a couple of 8-win seasons since he got to K-State. And this team looks like it should be a contender. So he'll be a name to get mentioned for this Nebraska job. Matt Campbell, his name comes up for every job. The shine might be off him a little bit, but he's a young guy. He's got ties to the area. He's got ties in the conference. He's got connections in the conference. He's led these guys to Iowa State to a top 10 finish just 2 years ago. They just notched their first win over their arch rival, Iowa. And he's doing all this after having to replace his number one quarterback, Purdy, his number one running back in Hall, and an All-American tight end. Matt Campbell's 42 years old, too. So Scott Frost was a young guy, too. They want a young guy in Nebraska who can build something for the future and be there for a while. I think that's going to be key for Nebraska. Well, the key is they got to win. But I think they need somebody to come in there and spend some time. Stay there. Jake Dickert's mentioned the Washington State head coach. Done a pretty good job of righting the ship there a little bit after a disaster from Nick Rolovich's exit. I mean, that was an ugly, politically charged situation that we're not going to get into here. But he's done a good job of righting the ship there. Jamie Chadwell, who's coached Coastal Carolina for the last few years, done a tremendous job with this program. And it's amazing to me that he hasn't gotten swept up by a power conference now. Even an SEC team should be interested in Jamie Chadwell. And there's been jobs that have opened up. The South Carolina job has opened up. The Arkansas job had opened up. Vanderbilt had opened up. And this guy the SEC doesn't even come and knock on his door. He's got a fun offense. He's got a good, loyal staff. He's going to be a really good coach at the next level when the time comes. So these are some guys that I think Nebraska will take a look at. Let's just hope they don't do something stupid, go after some name pro coach. You remember when they hired, who was the Oakland Raider coach that took over for Gruden? Can't remember. Damn. Sorry, guys. I got a text. I got a situation I got to keep an eye on. That's not it, though. Damn, what was his name? He's still coaching. He might be with the Jets staff, offensive line coach. Can't think of his name. But anyway, let's see what we got here. Comments here. I'm not putting up anymore. Carlos, I'm hoping that UT can get it together offensively. I mean, they scored 30-some points last week. I know it was an overtime. They are a little erratic on offense. Pittsburgh, there's a team that I don't think should be ranked in the top 25. I don't see this as a top 25 team, and I think they better be careful with Western Michigan this week. But Tennessee is on the come with Josh Heupel doing a good job. Dooley get another chance to coach? I don't. If he'll probably get another job, but it won't be in a Power 5 conference. Remember, there's guys that bounce around forever. Think about Tommy Tuberville, who's now in the Senate, I think. But Tommy Tuberville, he washed out at Auburn. He washed out at Texas Tech. He got the job at Cincinnati before Luke Fickell. I think he preceded Luke Fickell in the Cincinnati job. These guys will keep getting jobs. And Dooley, if he wants to coach major, look at I lost the name that I had in my head. Just look at some of the guys that get recycled over and over again. Who's that? Dooley freelances at Alabama. A lot of coaches go to Alabama to fix their reputations. Allen, Cyclones beat a terrible Iowa team that is 1 touchdown in 2 games. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, but somebody oh, God. I wonder if I can find them quick. Oh, my God. Hang on 1 second. Somebody had duped Bob Stoops and Fran McCafferty, the Iowa basketball coach, into making what do they call that? Oh gosh, what do they call that video service where you could pay, famous people to wish somebody a happy birthday? So they had duped Fran McCafferty and Bob Stoops into doing this, and they played it as, it was messages to Kirk Friend's son, who's the offensive coordinator of Iowa, talking about how his dad loves him and, keep your head up. They didn't know what they were doing. It's very, very funny. Cameo is what I'm thinking of. If I could find these videos, I would play them for you, but I'm not sure that I can real quick. Iowa fans troll offensive coordinator Brian Ferenz with cameo videos from Bob Stoops and Fran McCafferty. Guys, if I can find these quick, I'll play them because they're absolutely hilarious. This article doesn't share the video. Let me see if I can find it. I cracked up when I saw this. They obviously didn't know what they were doing. NCAA, no, that's not it. Oh, God, I wish I could find these. They are so damn funny. Jesus, let me see. Oh, the Post might have had them. Hold on. Oh, my God, this is so good, guys. If I can find this, you'll die. Damn it. Can't seem to pull them up. All right. Well, I will tell you. Oh, here's one. Let's just see if I can do it real quick. I'll play it. Fran McCafferty. I don't know why this is striking me so funny, but it is, and I gotta play it if I can get it up here. Give me a second, see if I can do this. Oh my God, you're gonna love it. All right, here we go. Hold on. Where is it? Is it showing here? All right, watch this guy.
Hey Brian, Fran McCafferty here.
I hope you can hear
I
this.
wanted to reach out and let you know that all of us in the Hawkeye family are thinking about you. Your family loves you, your dad loves you, the Hawkeyes love you. If you're thinking about making a move back to New England, but wherever you go, wherever you are, the Hawkeye family will always be with you. Go Hawks.
Oh my God. Could you guys hear that? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear that. It was so freaking awesome. Oh my God. Let me see if I can find a Bob Stoops one. I don't know why this is exciting me so much, but I was dying watching these things today. There's Fran. Oh, here's Bob Stoops. Let me see if I can play this one. Guys, tell me if you could hear the audio. If you couldn't. Oh my gosh. Oh, you could hear. Okay, let me play Bob Stoops because this one's good too.
Hello there, Brian. Bob Stoops here saying hi. And listen, I know you've had a tough couple of 2-3 years there, but the good news is your family still supports you, buddy, especially your dad. He wants you to know that. But and even though everyone else seems to be against you, sometimes the best advice is to break free from the family business, man. Go do what you got to do. So anyhow, all the best to you and a big boomer sooner and good luck.
Listen, I watched that thinking, when I first saw the video, I really thought Bob Stoops was wishing Brian Ferenz luck. But they duped him into doing this for some other guy named Brian who worked in a family business. And I'm sorry, guys, but sometimes I just got to share what I think is funny. It's Nebraska. They always do something stupid. Bill Callahan, thank you for finding a name for me, Alan. Stupid, right? Mike Riley was a bad hire. Actually, I thought Mike Riley was all right at the time. Miami is number 13 right now with a bullet, my friend, with a bullet. It's awesome, I'm telling you. Oh, my God. You should do cameo from Jim Beam spots. You should, Carlos. What are you going to charge? I know a lot of the guys that I've interviewed, by the way, on TGI Sports Talk. And by the way, we talked about Dan Harris on at the top of the show on our spotlight. Dan's been playing a lot of my old videos. He played the one I did with Uwe von Schaman today on Let's Talk Sports. So speaking of Oklahoma and the Big 12. Well, anyway, you guys could hear that. Maybe you guys didn't find those as funny as I did. I thought they were awesome and hilarious. So, anyway. Oh, God. Sometimes I get laughing. I can't help myself. Coaching hot seats. Who's moved up? You know who's moved up on my ladder? Let me get rid of this thing because I think it's affecting my. There we go. I think that's hurting my stream. Oh, that sounds awful. I had an operation to take care of that. Oh my God, who's on the hot seat? You know who's moved up to my number one spot? Jimbo Fisher takes over for Scott Frost. Jimbo Fisher's got to start winning games, guys. He seriously could end up 1-5 here. He loses this week to Miami. They got some tough games coming up. Arkansas. So he's a big mover this week. The others are still. Listen, Marcus Freeman actually has moved up in this meter that I monitor. He's moved up into the top 10, which is unfair. He's coached 2 games. Give the man, and again, Jim quoted out Aaron Rodgers, and I don't want to do that, but just chill out a little bit. This isn't going to be a disaster. Give the guy a chance to get his feet on the ground. He doesn't even have a quarterback. His offensive line is terrible. He hasn't had a chance to recruit even one class that is helping this school so far. Give him a chance. My God. Anybody else who kind of moves up that I would mention? Everybody else is pretty much the same. But Dino Babers still on this hot seat. I'm going to take Dino Babers off the hot seat a little bit. Syracuse, wasn't a good Connecticut team they beat, but Syracuse going anywhere on the road today and winning by 30-some points is really good. They beat Louisville at home the week before, a Louisville team that killed them last year. Get Dino Babers off the hot seat. He's a good coach. Anybody you guys want to put on the hot seat? I'm really interested in. There's Alan's got one. The hottest seat is gone. Well, he was the hottest seat for sure. And I'm moving Jimbo Fisher squarely on that hot seat. Number one hot seat. Saban's first year at Bama was terrible. Give guys time to build. I agree. But, in fairness, Nick Saban inherited a much worse team than Marcus Freeman did. He inherited a mess there. For you guys who think that Nick Saban is not a good football coach, this team was a horrendous mess before Nick Saban got there. Actually, I should be looking at Alabama. What was Nick Saban's record this first year, by the way? Does anybody know? I'm going to find it, Alan. I'm going to beat you to it. First year at Alabama, he's 2-6. Not sure how they only played 8 games, but 2-6. 12-2 the next year and went to the Sugar Bowl and lost. 14-0 after that. Give Saban some credit, right? Let's see what they were. What was their record the year before he got there? I'm probably not going to get it here. It's too many games. Yeah, not going to get it. Yeah, too many. Too many. I'm sure the record was terrible. You got to type more. Dave Aranda on the hot seat, maybe. I mean, he did a great job at Baylor. They'd have to have a bad year, and I think they're going to finish. I do not think they make the conference championship game this year. I think they finish 4th or 5th in the conference, and I don't think Dave Aranda is going to find himself in a hot seat. No, I just don't think so. I'm not sure. What are you laughing at? 2-6, LOL. That's SEC average, AOL. What's that? LOL. What's that mean? That was his overall record, by the way. It was 1-4. Did Nick Saban come in there in the middle of the season? I mean, I don't think they did. Yeah, I'm a little confused by that. I don't know what was going on in the 2007 season that they would have only played 8 games. Maybe they're on probation and they could only play 8 games. I don't know. Rick, the Notre Dame seat will warm quickly on the way to 6 wins. You know, let me take a look at, let's take a look. I got to get to some games for this week before we run out of time here. Been a fun show tonight, guys. I hope you've had fun. I have, because Jim was great. I cracked myself up with the videos. Oh, God. What's Notre Dame got left? Oh, this is terrible because I can't get to them. Let's see. I'll get there. All right. Where's my independence? Rick says Notre Dame wins 6 games. They beat California. They beat North Carolina. They lose to BYU. They beat Stanford. They beat UNLV. They beat Syracuse. They lose to Clemson. They beat Navy. They beat BC. Yeah, that gives them 7 wins. They'd be playing for 8 against USC. This Notre Dame team will get better as the season goes on. I just don't think this team is as bad as they looked at. Just listen, we don't know that Marshall isn't a really good football team either. We can't. This isn't Notre Dame losing to. I mean, they don't even have a team bad enough on their schedule that I can say this isn't them losing to Georgia State or Georgia Southern like Nebraska did. Marshall's had a very good football team for a lot of years. The Sun Belt is showing what they can do when you see Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina. Now Marshall's, I think this is their first year in this conference. You can't look at these group of 5 schools like they are terrible bottom of the barrel football teams anymore, guys. You just can't do it. These teams, the gap is not that big. So you shouldn't be that shocked when you see these games. That's like Vandy every season after Franklin left. And Franklin's been a horrendous coach since. He coached, Penn State never is as good as they should be. 5 of their wins in 2007 were, there you go. They were 7-6. Thank you, Alan. Wikipedia was not telling me that as I searched it quickly. And I'm assuming those were not from Nick Saban violations. Yeah, they could have been for Nick Saban violations. I don't know. Nick Saban has not necessarily been a coach that has been overly penalized by the NCAA. And I'm sure you'll say, because we had comments earlier, I think it might have been Anthony. Somebody you'll tell me the NCAA protects Nick Saban. Well, I'm not sure why they would need to. They didn't protect any other Alabama head coach. Anyway, let's move on. We only got 15 minutes. We got to go through some games here. I'll be on with Robert Butler on Sports Scopes after this show real quickly, by the way, guys. So just if you want to check that out. Not sure what Robert and I are going to talk about, so we'll see how that goes. And I'm looking forward. Robert's on now 5 nights a week. So let's take a quick look at this week's games. And I don't really have a – all right, let's look at this. Let's just swing around college football. It's a good enough one. Let's look at the schedule and come up with some picks. What do you say? I'm going to go top 25 right now. Oh, if I can get there. Here we go. Top 25 games. Texas A&M, we'll get that one after. Pittsburgh and at Western Michigan. Be careful. Kendon Slovis is hurt a little bit. He got hurt late in this game against Tennessee. Got to be very careful. And Western Michigan beat Pittsburgh last year, 44-41 in Pittsburgh. So Western Michigan is a live dog here. Penn State at Auburn. I like Auburn here at home. I'm not a big fan of James Franklin. He goes in, he loses games that he should have lost. He should have lost to Auburn last year at home. And I think that it's possible that Auburn will defeat Penn State on the road. Or at home, excuse me. I picked UTSA, Texas San Antonio to beat Texas in this game. A lot of predictions have got this game 18 points or higher in a blowout. Texas is down a starting quarterback. They got a huge hangover from nearly beating the number one team in the country and shocking the world last week. And I think they got a hangover and they lose this game at home to Texas San Antonio. I promise I'll get to your comments before we go much further. I got to go through these quickly, though. Ole Miss at Georgia Tech. Ole Miss is going to win this one for fun. Georgia Tech is in trouble. Collins, the coach there, is probably in the top 5 ranked hot-seated coaches in this country as well. I like Ole Miss big in this game. Wake Forest, I gave you a score of 45-31 or so. Sam Hartman back last week, barely looked like he missed a beat. The rest of the team is very veteran. We'll hear from Larry Sorensen next week to talk about this game and where Wake Forest is at this point, and the SEC in general, or the ACC in general, and Sam Hartman's return. Number 18, Florida at South Florida. Florida should come back, have a nice, easy victory here after a very, very hard-fought loss to Kentucky. Kentucky's a good football team. No embarrassment at loss. Anthony Richardson is the key to this team. If he's the Anthony Richardson you saw against Utah, Florida's going to play well. If he's the Anthony Richardson who broke Florida's back a couple of times with bad interceptions to Kentucky, then they're not going to win. It's as simple as that. Baylor at Texas State. This will be a blowout. NC State versus Texas Tech. This game Saturday night. I think Tech can win this game at home. NC State ranked 16. I think it's very possible that Texas Tech will pull the upset here over North Carolina State at home. Tennessee at Akron. Tennessee's going to win it by at least 50 here, guys. Don't even turn on the TV set. Utah against an underrated San Diego State game in the late window Saturday night. Utah 35-10, let's say, over San Diego State. Number 13, Miami at Texas Tech. I'm taking Miami 24-20. Tyler Van Dyke solidifies his Heisman Trophy contention and knocks off Texas A&M, who falls to 1-2, and possibly on their way to 1-5. BYU at number 25, Oregon. BYU is going to beat Oregon. I don't think they're that good. I think it's taken them some time to get this acclimated to a new coach, a new offense. Bo Nix is not the answer at quarterback. We saw him at Auburn. He failed there. He's going to fail at Auburn. He's going to fail at Oregon, and I do not think this team is really going to contend in the Pac-12. Michigan State at Washington. Another game to watch for an upset, although Washington's allowed to be favored here. So if you will call it an upset because it's ranked against unranked, but I like Michigan State to lose at Washington, who's on the rebound. Arkansas plays Missouri State, blowout, easy. Kentucky, Youngstown State, blowout. These are games that if they lost these games, like Notre Dame lost to Marshall, it would be a big deal. Any of these teams losing to Marshall would not be a capital offense for their coach. Just saying. Oklahoma State at Pine Bluff, Arkansas Pine Bluff, another example of what I'm talking about. Another 50-point game. Now, a game that should be interesting, USC at Fresno State. Take the over here because there's going to be a bunch of points scored. I think USC will squeak out a victory, but not by a lot. Oklahoma at Nebraska. There's no way Nebraska can be ready to play this football game. They begin the post Scott Frost era, and I don't think they're going to stay close. I think, Oklahoma will probably score 50 plus on this team, and I don't think it'll be the worst loss Nebraska's had to Oklahoma, but it'll be not pretty, and I don't think any way they can get ready for this game. Clemson plays Louisiana Tech. Probably a big win for Clemson. That offense, you may see a fair amount of Cade Klubnik this week because this game's going to get out of hand early, and it's not good for DJ. The more reps Klubnik gets, the closer he might get to being that number one quarterback. I still don't think Dabo Swinney makes any change there until the point where DJ can't just leave the program and he's left without an experienced quarterback, should he have to go back to him. So that, I think, is week 5 when he would not be able to continue and leave the program and get a redshirt year somewhere else. Ohio State at Toledo. Again, this will be a blowout. Alabama gets to rebound nicely. I would not be wanting to be Louisiana Monroe this week, getting Alabama after that performance last week. They could lose by 60. And Georgia at South Carolina. I think this game will be closer than you think. I don't know what the spread is. I'm sure it's double digits, but I would think that South Carolina's – I say South Carolina keeps this within a score in the fourth quarter. Maybe it gets out of hand a little bit late, but I think they'll have the ball with a chance to tie the game in the fourth quarter. There's my bold prediction in that game. Watch it be a 30-point blowout. And that will cover the top 25, and that's probably all we really got time for. I'll get to some of your comments. We can talk about a few other things before we close out the show. I got to get off right at 8:29 or so let's see what we got here. Bring your comments, guys. We can do this. Well, maybe not. Augustine, I think you watch college football. Well, there's always interest in college football. Bama students in 2007 had received improper benefits related to textbook distribution, and some students involved were on the football team. The 5 games for these players participate in were vacated. Yeah, again. That probably wouldn't happen today. All right, so you guys have no comments. Let's see what other games are being played this weekend of interest outside of the top 25, since we got just a few minutes left before we got to run. Let's look at the schedule. Let's just go down it quickly. We'll see who the Armed Forces teams are playing. Florida State at Louisville, I find a very interesting game this week. Big game for Mike Norvell. Get back on the winning side here. I think they will. Louisville's not an easy place to play, though. Well, Air Force plays Wyoming, speaking of the our armed forces games. Some other games of interest, again, outside of the ranked teams. Villanova goes to Army this week. Army should be able to get back on the winning track here against Villanova. Syracuse plays Purdue. Syracuse, again, starting 2-0. Dino Babers maybe getting himself off that hot seat a little bit. Not a really good Connecticut team, obviously, but they did win by 40. They beat Louisville at home. This is an interesting game at home against a good Purdue game. And I think if Syracuse can be representative and maybe be in this game in the fourth quarter, they'll have a shot. Buffalo at Coastal Carolina. We don't care about that game. Old Dominion at Virginia. The Old Dominion playing, representative football in their move to FBS. And Virginia with a new head coach. Interesting game to watch there. We talked about Cal at Notre Dame. Notre Dame needs a really good victory here. Tulane at Kansas State, which I think Kansas, we'll talk about that. We haven't reached it yet. So BYU, let's see. Don't care about Vanderbilt that much. Colorado at Minnesota could be some of interest there. Troy at Appalachian State. Kansas at Houston. Okay, I'll give it to you. It's a game that I'll turn on, and it's on the where can we watch that game? ESPNU, 4 o'clock. Good window to turn that game on maybe and see what happens. Colorado State at Washington State. Washington State beat Wisconsin on the road last week. Mississippi State LSU. This is an interesting game out of the top 25. Brian Kelly looking for his, he got his first win last week, looking for his first SEC win against a decent, Mike Leach. This team will be middle of the pack probably, but they'll score some points. They'll be entertaining, and we'll see how it goes from there. Marshall coming off that Notre Dame win gets Bowling Green. What else? Jacksonville State. No, that's not the team I want. I thought that was Dion. Charlotte. No, I don't care about that game. We talked about that game. Nevada at Iowa. Can Iowa score more than 7 points in a game? Brian Ferenz, will he be the offensive coordinator come week 4? They better have a good offensive performance this week, I would say. UCF and Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic off to a decent start. UCF struggling. They've lost a game already. Again, the AAC is hurt by some of these early losses from some of their better known teams. Houston, Cincinnati's lost. UCF has lost already. So not a good start for them. UTEP looking to rebound against New Mexico. We talked about that game. And that's about it. Duquesne goes to Hawaii. Is anybody going to care about that game? Oh, my gosh. First time ever, Syracuse, North Carolina, and Duke have all started 2-0. That's a good stat. Unfortunately, they're going to start playing games in the league soon. And that will end. So, guys. Had a good night tonight. Thanks for all your comments, Alan, Carlos, Rick, Augustin, Anthony was with us for a short time. Thanks to Jim Biringer. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I know we had a lot of comments tonight. Jim Biringer, thanks for coming in with your tremendous insight as always. It's going to be another fun week of football, guys. Miami, Texas A&M is the marquee game. BYU and Oregon. Michigan State, Washington. A lot of fun. Liberty, Wake Forest, Fresno State, USC. Lots of fun. College football, always good stories. Keith Engel for College Football Huddle right here on TGI Sports Talk. Have a tremendous night and enjoy the games. We'll see you next Wednesday night.